Hi there. Thanks for tuning in. This is the Follow Your Passion podcast. I'm your host, Erwin Wils. I'm a mindset and business strategist and founder of Millionaire Life Strategy. In this podcast, I'm interviewing my clients and other entrepreneurs that are following their passion and make a good living out of it. When you want to know more about me or what I can do for you, check out my website, millionairelifestrategy.com. But first, check out this episode of Follow Your Passion. Hi everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Follow Your Passion. Let me introduce my guest of today. My guest is Mike Ashie. He's a leadership consultant. Mike started working in the corporate world back in 1998 and has successfully fulfilled several roles with different companies. In 2016, he started his YouTube channel, Leadership with Mike, next to his day job. When the pandemic hit, Mike was forced to turn to his YouTube channel full-time, and he certainly has done that successfully. His channel has over 1.2 million views, 24,500 subscribers. He created 273 videos, and we're still counting. Mike is a leadership consultant and featured consultant on the Dr. Phil Show, Authority Magazine, Forbes, and many more. Welcome, Mike. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for that great introduction. It's much appreciated.
Yeah. So, Mike, what made you decide to start your YouTube channel back in 2016?
So it was an interesting path where I've been in self-development and leadership and management, wanting to develop myself for a very long time. And I was working at a company where I got overlooked for multiple promotions and I didn't know why. So I started to dive deep in that, but I also decided that I wasn't going to wait for somebody to say, you are worthy to lead, you are worthy to have a position. So that's when I said, you know what, let me start a YouTube channel because I feel like I've got some information. I feel that I'm able to share it in a manner that people can connect with, but that was just in theory. So I started a YouTube channel and it started to grow relatively quickly as I've started to learn more about growing a YouTube channel. So that was kind of my start, is that I wasn't given the opportunity. So I decided I'm not waiting for anybody's permission. I'm going to take that opportunity myself.
Nice. That's a true spirit of an entrepreneur. Do you have some background in entrepreneurship, or maybe your parents? Or
so my father has always been an owner-operator truck driver. And I never really saw it as an entrepreneurial endeavor until I started doing it myself, where young and foolish, started riding sport bikes, thought, let me start a t-shirt line that had some sarcastic comments and stuff. And then I kind of rolled it from there, where that didn't quite work, but there was a lot of great lessons that I learned. And then I rolled it into an app company, and that didn't quite work, but I really learned some lessons. So I found that it was, looking back, hindsight, what outsiders would perceive as my failures were actually fantastic stepping stones to where I'm at now, where I've learned so much of don't do this. The biggest one was don't start a project that you don't have the money to fund. So jumping in on YouTube, I said I was not investing a single dollar until I earned a dollar. And that was, a really hard lesson that I learned with the app company, where I wanted to start a social platform, but you really needed big money to get a lot of people on it. And that's been how I've been running my YouTube business. And any upgrade that I make to my equipment, my studio, everything has been earned first and then paid out after. So there's great lessons in failures or perceived failures.
Oh, definitely. I always say it doesn't matter if you make a mistake. You should allow yourself to make a mistake. It's all about the learnings, right? We do so many things for the first time, and it would be a miracle if we did everything right the first time. So it's how we grow. It's how we develop ourselves.
Well, I was talking to one of my teacher friends, and she was asking me to come and speak to the high school. And she's like, but how do I tell the kids and guide the kids if they want to create their own business and they want to learn? What course can I tell them to take? And I said, realistically, I didn't take courses. I took hospitality management way back in my younger days. But with each failure I had, I learned a new skill. I learned photography. I learned website design back when it was very MySpace kind of thing, where that was like the first click and drag and create. I had to learn the branding. I had to learn the marketing, but I had to find it in myself to want to learn that. And that's where, my advice to the kids that I'm going to talk to is that, you can pay for whatever you want, but if you don't have the burn inside you to learn something, the best teachers are not going to get through to you. You don't want to learn it. So it's, going back to the failures, it's that idea of failing forward. Like you just go to the next step. What can you take from there? And I've found in my experience, the failures have been the best learning tools for me. The little wins keep you going, but it was the failures where you're like, I'm not doing that one again. That one really hurt. Right?
Yeah, definitely the hard lessons.
and they are. And that, people want to talk about the school of hard knocks. To me, that is the best school you can go into. You have to try things on your own. I can tell you how to run a podcast until I'm blue in the face. It will not connect to you until you start to run a podcast, right? So many people want to be on YouTube and learn about how to do YouTube, but they never started a channel. So that even though I'm telling them about how to create a business, how to set up your lighting, how to run your camera, none of it makes sense if you're not hands-on trying to do it. Right. So it's that school of hard knocks. You can take all the theory you want. It's only going to get you so far.
Yeah. And it's actually funny that you mentioned it, because this friend of yours, she's a teacher, and at school you're punished when you make a mistake, right?
Yes. And that's the interesting part. And because my wife's a teacher as well. So when we are dealing with our children, we have young children, when we're talking to them about schooling, my wife and I have different schools of thought because she's a teacher. So there's a right and a wrong answer, where I'm more of an entrepreneur and I'm like, well, there's different answers. They may not be wrong. Let's just work around it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's like when you ask an entrepreneur, what's 1 + 1? And the answer would be, what do you want it to be?
Right? Because I can make it anything you need. Just give me a minute to figure that out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's funny because my wife and I had an interesting conversation there not too long ago where my son, he's in grade 2, and his teacher said, here's 5 words, and I want you to put them into sentences. So that would be 5 sentences. My son chose 3 sentences. I said, but Jackson, you're missing 2. He said, no, Dad, I used 3 words in this sentence. To me, as an entrepreneur, that it gives me chills. That is a huge win because that's thinking outside the box. But my wife, as a teacher, she said, no, you need 5 different sentences, right? So, and my son's saying, but it doesn't say that. It says, use these 5 words in sentences.
He could have even taken 1 sentence, right?
Exactly. So it was, it was very interesting, the family discussion that we had, and his teacher realized that with my son, she needs to be very clear because he does have that train of thought, which I'm super proud of.
Yeah, it's actually funny because sometimes you see those mistakes that children has made, right, with math exercises, and I still remember that where you see this graph, and there's a line in it, and it says a symbol X, right, and below is the question is find X, and somebody just circles it and says here it is,
right?
Well, it's right, because.
And that's the difficulty with schooling, not to kind of sidetrack this on schooling or not schooling, but as entrepreneurs and as people that are, driven to find their passion and work towards that, the right answer might not be what everybody tells you the answer is. Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
So back to your YouTube channel. You've grown it successfully. You got over 24,000 subscribers, more than 1 million views of your videos, and you've created 273 videos already. How did it make you grow as a person yourself?
Excellent question. I'm thinking the biggest thing is when I was working for somebody else, it was very easy for me to go in and say, today I have to do this. Since starting my channel, and luckily but I chose a field which is leadership and management, which I'm very passionate about. I have to be self-motivated, and I have to create a workflow that works best for me. So over the course of growing my channel, it was, constantly learning, which I enjoy, which was constantly being on the internet and searching YouTube to learn how to do the camera angles, how to do the lighting, how to talk to people in a manner that they understand, that's natural to me, but also, makes them want to listen. And I've really learned about how to influence people, how to get people to like me. I feel I'm a likable guy, but it's trying to get other people to say, you know what, let me give this guy, this bald guy, a minute on TV or on YouTube and see what I like. So the process of, and it kind of goes back to with, if you have kids, it's how can you guide them to find their passion? This has really enlightened me because it was so easy. When I was doing other businesses, it was like, I think this can make money, right? And that was hard to keep going for because it was costing me money and I wasn't playing the game properly. This has been, how can I help people the most? What can I share that's really going to have an impact on their management career, on their career development? And that passion, I believe, is what has elevated my own wanting to do better in videos, wanting to share more information, making it easier for me to create courses that have an impact on individuals. And just the idea of, some people will say, you just have to follow your passion. Other people is like, no, you need to find what you're good at and just do that to make a living. And for me, following your passion has proven to be my best path, because I feel, and the results I get through comments and emails is that I am having an impact. And I didn't realize how important that is to me as a human, to feel like I'm helping somebody, to be of service to somebody. Before, it was very much like I would hear people talking about, you need to be of service and you need to give, and it didn't connect. Where now it's like, oh my word, they were telling the truth. When you are connecting with people with your passion and you're able to give to them without expecting them to hand you $1, but the business will grow from there. When at least in my experience, when you've come through with the purest of intentions, that has been mind-blowing for me, especially in about the last 2 years when things started really moving forward.
I can totally understand what you're saying. And you hit a very important point as well, I guess, is that it's not about the money, right? Money should never be the goal. It's the result of the impact you make, of the value you add. And that's exactly what you just said in your own words.
Yeah, and it's funny because until I was in the position, like I've read many blogs, I've listened to all the podcasts where everybody's like, it's not the money will follow. And I'm like, but it is the money, and I need the money today. But now I'm like, I get it. It was more like it was the right connection with myself, the right passion with the right heart and the right intent. And then the money is now flowing in. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm not just rolling around like Scrooge McDuck in my dollars, but there is a sustainable business that came from sharing a passion of a knowledge base of leadership and management, but sharing that with people who were looking for that information. And I had it locked up here and I wasn't sharing it before. Yeah.
And that's the beauty of it, indeed. I'm not sure if you're familiar with BNI, the Business Network International.
Yes.
It's the Entrepreneurs Network. Yep. And they have the same philosophy, right? It's the main goal is changing the way the world does business, and give us gain. And that's exactly it. You have to give without expecting something in return, because at the end it will come back to you.
Exactly.
And it might take some time. Once you got momentum, once it's rolling, you'll know they're true. It's true.
Absolutely. And it's very much, I believe in karma, good and bad. It will come back to you one way or another. And the checks and balances will always even out at some point. And I have a little group of fellow YouTubers who are doing leadership and self-development, and starting that and working with these people has been great for me, because it's been very much, without knowing it, I put together a fantastic group of people who want to share for the sake of, I want you to do better. And then it's not like, what are you going to give me? It's just, as a group, today I might drop a knowledge bomb and everybody's like, oh my word, I would pay a lot of money just to figure this out. And, or you saved me 3 years. And tomorrow, next month, next year, they drop something. I'm like, oh my, how did I not see this? And I think that's the beauty of, when you're in alignment to your passion and what you feel your purpose is, you're not hoarding information. You won't get ahead that way. You just feel like I do, at least, I have to share this information. I have to better somebody else, because, the rising tide lifts all boats. So there's no point in me holding information when I can help somebody.
Yeah. And it's what you said, with your fellow YouTubers, you're no competitors, you're more companions, right? You're in this together and you help each other out, and everybody benefits from that.
Without question. And I laugh, but to anybody when I'm talking about them, they're my coworkers, because we check in with each other, we share feedback, and it's genuine. And I don't know if it's because we're all in the leadership field where we're comfortable giving constructive criticism, constructive feedback, but it has really elevated. And, in the YouTube world, if I have you as a subscriber and I tell you to go check out Paul's channel, I don't lose you. Paul gains you. And now you've got two sources of information that you can now decide, is Mike's way, do I relate to that more? Not necessarily right or wrong, but do I relate to that more? Or is it the way that Paul's delivering it? So there's great opportunities when you bring more opportunities around. Yeah.
It's wonderful how that works, right?
It really is. And I feel like I'm silly because I had to wait until years later to connect with it, because I've heard the message so many times on all the books that I've read, and it didn't connect until I started with this YouTube channel, and it was a natural roll. Everything just seems to just come together.
Yeah. Well, I guess we're late bloomers.
Right? I got a thick head and I need to get knocked a few times.
Yeah, but it's all the experience you gained until now that made you the person you are at this very moment, at this present, right?
Exactly. And that's one of the things where, I don't know that the information I've gained, I'm not even sure if it's for me. It might be for my kids. It might be for my siblings. It might, you know what I mean? Like, there's a wealth of knowledge that we all gain, and you're trying to think, well, what was that lesson for? It might not actually be for you. It might be for you to share with somebody else. It's, not to get all crazy on here, but the world and we work just in weird ways that you don't know until after. You're like, wow, that lesson from 20 years ago, I just saved this guy $100,000, or, you know what I mean? Like, if you ever get blessed to see that connection of a hard knock that you had and saving somebody from that, or at least sharing the information so they can save themselves, it's very rewarding.
Oh yeah. So what do you do yourself to keep your knowledge and your experience or wisdom up to date?
So for myself, I am constantly on the computer. I'm constantly, specifically with my coworkers, I'm watching their videos. I'm taking their take, because I feel like in the world of leadership and management, there's not too much that changes very quickly. What changes, or where I feel I can elevate myself, is my delivery style. So you may say something and I'm like, that is absolutely bang on, but I'm going to say it this way. So I really like using YouTube. I really like reading books is huge to anybody trying to get into leadership, self-development. Like, I can't speak highly enough of just getting books, because I don't know who said this, but it's the idea that there's no new problems that you're dealing with. Somebody's already dealt with it and they wrote a book about it. So go and find the book. In my experience, it is so true. That's how it seems to work. It's just the knowledge is out there. So again, but when you're doing stuff in terms of YouTube and video creation, there's ideas everywhere. I go for a walk, I'm listening to a song, and it's like, this is a great idea. with today's technology, I've already got my phone on me. I can create a not even horrible quality video that connects with somebody. There's been so many videos that I've published where I'm like, I don't know if that was a good one, but I publish it and I always get a comment like, this was the video I needed today. And at that point, one view with one, way of helping somebody, that video was worth putting out into the world. And that's, the interesting thing about the time we live in is that we can share thoughts and ideas or pain points that we've experienced, and you don't know how it could have a positive effect on somebody else.
Exactly. And it's also you learn also from your children and everybody around you, right? If you're open for it. I actually had a very nice experience today with my youngest son. He's 14, and my wife, when she puts a telephone on hands-free, there's almost no sound coming out, right? So what do? You check all the settings, if they're right, if the program is, I couldn't find anything, so I thought it was just broken. And my youngest boy just looked at it as but the speaker is all dirty, right? And I looked at it and I said, you're right. I just have to clean the speaker, and I cleaned it and it works again. So sometimes you're so focused on a problem, and it takes somebody else to have a different view. You say, light bulb, why didn't I check that before, right?
Exactly. And that goes with, the idea of sharing your passion. I'm able to, and don't get me wrong, it's not that I have this godly power, but some people will come with leadership questions, and I can, literally wake up out of bed and I've got the message and I'm like, and I can write a quick answer, and they're like, oh my word, that is what I needed to hear. But to me, it was just like your son, Dad, there's dirt in the speaker. Like, it was very obvious to him. But when you're immersed in your trying to find the solution, it's so easy to overlook something, right? And I know, I'm not sure if it's a true story, but I like it anyway. There was this toothpaste company that wanted to sell more toothpaste, and they had this whole brainstorm session, in the meeting room. They were thinking, how can we sell more toothpaste and stuff like that? And they said it was the lady that brings around the coffee, and she just made a remark of, why don't you just widen the opening? And I thought, why don't we do that? Because if you widen the opening, more will come out, and the sooner will the toothpaste be, the tube will be empty. And just little things like that it can make such a big impact, and you would have even thought of it. Exactly. And that's the beauty of, again, the world we live in, is that there are so many communities where you can ask a question and somebody that has no formal training in what you're talking about can say, but make the mouth bigger. Oh yeah. Like it's a wonderful time, I think.
Yeah. I got to say with experts in my network, they use jargon a lot, right?
Yep.
And sometimes I write a post on LinkedIn and they use a lot of abbreviations. And I read an article of one of my connections, and she had like 4 abbreviations in the first paragraph. And I just asked her, how would you explain this to a 5-year-old? Because I lost track reading the article. And she said, well, I don't deal with 5-year-olds. I deal with adults, so you should know about this. And then she explained what the abbreviations were, right? And it had one of the abbreviations was SQL. And so I explained to her, I have a technical background. And I know in computer language, SQL is just, it's a language to access databases, right? And retrieve information from that. And in her jargon, SQL meant sales qualified leads. So it was totally different setting, right? Same abbreviation, totally different explanation. And that made her understand the point of view that with different backgrounds, things can have such a different meaning. But sometimes you take things for granted because it's your daily language that you're using. And that's interesting to notice as well. You don't see your own blind spots, and that's why they're called blind spots. You need somebody else to point them out to you.
Exactly. And, that's kind of where I've found my niche on YouTube, is that my whole thing is, no nonsense sense. I'm just trying to break down, not even just leadership situations or management situations, dealing with people, but in non-technical jargon, just a guy talking to somebody else. And this is what, keep the basic meat and potatoes of the dish. This is what you have to know to move forward, because there's and this isn't to discredit anybody that's put a book out, but there's a lot of books that have great information, but you have to filter through the fluff. I feel like, you have to hit a certain number of pages for the book to be out, but I really only needed a few pieces of that. And that's where I've been able to carve out my niche, where people are now realizing I can go to Mike and he just tells me what it is, or at least how to get started, right?
Yeah.
There's that whole Simon Sinek, huge fan of Simon. And it's, finding the why, which is great in theory. But when you're a new manager and you are in the trenches and people aren't listening to you, you don't care about anybody's why. What you care about is getting the job done so I don't get fired and you don't get fired. And that's kind of where I found my niche. Like, let's get to the brass tacks of this is what the problem is. Start here. It may not be the best answer, but it's the best answer at the time you're in right now. And then we'll move, because the idea of finding your why, or the people you work with finding their why, is fantastic. But sometimes, when the stuff hits the fan, you need to get right to do this or don't do that kind of talk.
Exactly. It's great for a startup or for a greenfield situation. It's an ideal situation, but you also have to deal with the day-to-day activities. And it's wonderful how you put it. It's indeed, if you know the why, it's perfect. And I tell my clients as well, for instance, you should know your own core values, because your core values, they define the core values of the company, especially when they're a solopreneur or just starting the company. And it helps if your employees or your team members or the people you want to start cooperating with, if they can align to the same core values, and then your relationship will last longer, right? It has a higher chance for success, right?
Yep.
But if you're jumping on a speeding train, you can start with aligning all the core values, but then it will miss the station you should be at, right?
Yes. And that's where I find a lot of people get hung up, is they're worried about the coming across, not necessarily as the good guy, but trying to do so many things where, like you said, if the train is moving fast, what's your next move? Sometimes it's great to think about 10 moves ahead. That's fantastic. But sometimes you just have to figure out what the next move is and get people on board. And that needs to be a little bit more direct. Not necessarily rude, but just direct. This is what we're doing now. Go, kind of thing, right?
Yeah. It's actually one of my coaches also said, an average coach tells you what you want to hear, and a better coach will tell you what you need to hear.
Yes.
And that's exactly it. Sometimes you need to bring a bad message, but if you don't do it and only tell them what they want to hear, they're not growing. That they will hit the same stones again and again, the same rocks, until you tell them, you're speeding in the dead end street.
Yep.
You should turn around and find another way, because this is not working.
Well, it's funny that you say that. Like, sometimes you have to tell them what's not necessarily even popular. Where I have a lot of people, they can't get their team to work together. So they're trying everything. They're trying to build the relationship. They're trying to build trust. They're doing all the right things. And they're coming back to me and they're like, Mike, I still can't get this person on board. And what I believe is the hard truth is that you can't save everybody. There are some people, at least in my opinion, there are some people that are just miserable that I will never connect with. At which point I still have to be the boss. We still have to work together and get things done. But you can only have somebody put so much effort into somebody, and then the rest of the team is struggling. And I find that, in my research online, everybody wants to save that person, but I want the team to survive. So it's sometimes it's not necessarily what they want to hear, but when I put it in that words, in the sense that, I'm not telling you that person is not worthy. I'm not telling you that person is a bad person. What I'm telling you is there's a relationship that's not going to be fixed anytime soon. So don't waste energy on that when you can invest energy on the team that is working with you and is getting the job done.
Right. It might be the right person at the wrong place. Right.
Exactly. And there's so many reasons why you might, or I might not get along with somebody under my, command or under my leadership. And to figure it out, I think is great. But at the same time, it's not always the top priority. Sometimes we have to drop that and say, this one's not going to work out right now. Not saying that they're fired, not saying that anything bad should happen to them. It's just, I'm going to deal with you in this professional manner, but I'm going to invest my time over here because the payoff is better. And it's not necessarily what people expect to hear from me. But when I say it, for some reason, they just feel like, because people want to save everybody. And sometimes, like you said, it could be a great person in the wrong position, and it just puts them in the wrong mental state, whatever it might be. There's so many ways that could go.
Yeah, exactly. You've been in this field for at least focused field from 2016 when you started your YouTube channel. There are a lot of trends I see in management world, so to speak. You've got your serving leadership, authentic leadership. You heard the new trend about self-steering teams and stuff like that, right? Mm-hmm. Do you think they're all new trends, or it's just history repeating itself and the principles below it are basically the same?
I think the biggest thing, I think there's a lot of nice, fancy words. There's titles that make people feel like they're doing a better job. But I think that we have like more the manufacturing, like back in the day, where it was, you need to do this. I don't care if you like it. I don't care about your life, your wife, your kids, or nobody. This is the job. Get in, get out, move on. Then we've changed into servant, authentic, whatever the new thing is, because, and this might be shooting myself in the foot, but sometimes people need to sell a book. So they need a new title for this type of leadership, or they need a new YouTube channel. So maybe I'm going to say, well, no, this is Mike's signature type of leadership. At the end of the day, good leadership is about being authentic, transparent, and of service. I will get more done as a leader when I serve you, my team, when I get you what you need. So I do believe that, yes, there has been a change, and probably in the last 20 years, let's say, it's when it started. But every day there's a new thing that I'm reading. It's like, this looks like servant leadership, but you're calling it something fancier. Right? And that's what I mean. So leadership in and of itself doesn't change that much that fast. There's a lot of trends or a lot of hot topics that people want to lean in on, but I think it's the same as a diet. It's like, this is, at the end of the day, exercise, the proper amount of food and good food and water is what you need. I know it, but I don't do it. I'm looking for that fancy new word that says, oh, I'm going to lose weight this fast. I think on a smaller scale, that's what happens with any industry, and leadership is no exception.
Yeah, I totally agree to that. But I do see in the younger generations, there's a difference between the motivation of the people themselves, the employees. Yes. Because back in the days, money was a big driver. You got paid a lot more if you wanted to work for a certain company, and they were actually buying talents, right, with high salaries and stuff like that, bonuses, you name it, they gave it. But it seems that nowadays the current generation that's starting to work just want to have they're more environmentally aware. They want to, sustainability is a hot topic. They want to make a positive impact. and they want to contribute to the world.
Yes.
So does that also need different kind of leadership, in your opinion?
I don't think it needs a different kind of leadership. It needs a different type of package to entice the talent to come. I think again, I don't know who ran the numbers, but $75,000 US is the number where you are supposed to be happy in terms of money. When you get more money than that, the increase in happiness does not equate the same in terms of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that there is a generation, and I think I'm at like the older version of it, where you want to find the meaning, where you want to connect with people, and it's not about chasing a dollar. It's about raising your family, having time with your friends, enjoying life. That is, it goes away all too fast. But on the flip side, in terms of a younger generation, we also have people entering the workforce that I've had to work with that were coddled way too much by their parents, by their schools, by everybody around them, where they think that they could come into a job or a workplace and dictate what they will and will not do. And this specific topic is the reason that I was on Dr. Phil, because I had a video calling out snowflakes and people who get offended by everything. And at the end of the day, I look at it this way. I like to be of service. I like to think of myself as a fair person. But when I hire you to do a job, you don't get to come in and tell me I'm going to do this part of it and I'm not going to do that part of it. As employees, even management, anybody that does not own the company, you're going into work and you are selling your hour of time for a certain amount of money and purpose. That hour of time needs to provide value. And I think we have a generation, I don't even want to call it a whole generation. There's a group of people coming to work. And I've worked with some, they were older than me, and they just thought they were entitled to the paycheck. That's unless you make the business. I am entitled to my YouTube paycheck because I made the business. Nobody else is entitled to it. And if I hire a video editor, they need to perform video editing. So there's a lot of people that I worked with, especially at the airport when I was managing, where they thought, I don't need to do this. And why isn't that person doing it? And you know what? I had to do it yesterday. So I'm keeping track. Whoa. We need to, I'm all of being of service to the team, but the team needs to be providing value to the company. And that's where, I think it's great. I think it's smart of people to want more than a paycheck. Of course, nobody wants to be working for pennies on the dollar, but a paycheck, we all need money. It does make the world go round. It can help with happiness, but it will not alone make you happy. But to look for other things, if you have kids, can you get out early? Can you be the coach of their softball team and make those hours work? Are the benefits, the vacation time, do you need a ping pong table in your workplace? All these things are great. And I think that it adds to the enjoyment of life. So, good on people for chasing more than a dollar. Yeah. But if you're going to work, remember there's a job to do.
Yeah, great point. Great point. So, you're not an entrepreneur yourself full time that long, right? How do you enjoy the journey so far?
For me, this has been the most fulfilling period in my life. I've always had the entrepreneurial spirit, but I've always leaned on the secure paycheck, something that I know is going to be the same every week or every 2 weeks. By taking on and finding what I think was my calling, one, I never go to work. I'm in my studio every day, but I'm never going to work, partly because my studio is just off the side of my house, but I'm not grinding. Talking to you is not painful for me. This is enjoyment, but this is a big part of my business, is the outreach and the networking, being able to be home, being able to say, I'm shutting off the computer now and I'm going to get my kids from school, the lifestyle, which is why I say, people that want more from their employer, I get it, because now that I'm my employer, I'm making my time, and my life, by far, not perfect, but it is wonderful at the same time in all of its imperfections.
Nice. So I'm afraid we could talk for hours on those subjects and following a passion, right? So if you could share one tip or little piece of wisdom you would like to share with the audience, what would it be?
One thing is that if you have a nagging voice in the back of your head that you are supposed to do something different, not necessarily something more than what you're doing, but something different, you need to listen to it. Time does, you get what you need when you need it, but I would have been much further ahead had I listened to this little nagging voice when I first started the channel. If I really leaned into it, realistically, I could be at 100,000 subscribers. Does that make a huge difference? No, but I think I've put myself a little bit behind from when that first nagging voice came. So if you've got that voice, just try to figure out how can you start that sooner than later.
Nice. Great piece of advice, Mike, indeed. So if people want to know more about you or follow you on your YouTube channel, how can they do that?
So you can follow me on YouTube, youtube.com/leadership with Mike, or you can reach out to leadershipwithmike.com. That's my website, and that can get you to all my socials, programs that I have, free help that I can advise you on. So anything Leadership with Mike, you'll find me on Google.
Perfect. So I guess you're the only Mike that's talking about leadership then.
The only one that matters.
Yeah, exactly.
in my humble opinion.
Yeah. No, of course. Well, Mike, I had a great time talking to you. It's been a great episode, I guess. I hope the people like it as well. Keep up the good work, and let's stay in touch, Mike.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a wonderful time.
I hope you liked this episode. Make sure to check out the other episodes, because each one is filled with interesting and inspiring stories and energy. Are you following your passion as well and make a good living out of it? Contact me and you could be my next guest. Would you like to follow your passion but are not there yet? Check out my website millionairelifestrategy.com and book an appointment to discover what I could do for you. Don't forget to share the podcast with your friends so that they get inspired as well.